Hey miners, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the new home of power mining analysis. In today's episode, Anthony Power and I are joined by the team from HIVE Digital Technologies. They just came out with earnings, but we've got a lot more to talk about in today's presentation. Before we get into that, take a second, hit the like button, guys. Big help to myself and the channel. Anthony loves it. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comment section below if you're currently holding shares of HIVE, what you think about their strategy moving into 2025, and your thoughts on their most recent quarter. Now, with that being said, let's get into today's interview. Okay, guys, so that's right. We've got the dynamic duo back from HIVE Digital Technologies, hot off Q2 earnings, Chairman Frank Holmes, CEO Aydin Kilic. You guys, great to see you once again. We've got so much to talk about in today's podcast. Thank you for making the time.
Great to be with you.
Yeah, always a pleasure, gents.
Most definitely. We'll get right into it. I know we've only got a half an hour today. For people who are watching, we've started to attract a new audience on the channel. As your background implies there, Aydin, Bitcoin has been on quite the tear, taking off over $90,000 now. Our channel has attracted a lot of new viewers. Can you give us a quick update on HIVE and your key developments since our last interview?
I think the biggest, most exciting thing is that we've broken ground in Paraguay. We received a lot of questions. There was a lot of anticipation about when that hash rate was going to come online. And I'm really happy to say the first 2 exahash of that project are going to come online in Q2, calendar Q2 of next year, so spring. And the rest is going to come online. An additional 4.5 exahash is going to come online next summer. So that's really exciting. I'm actually flying down to Paraguay in the first week of December with Frank. We're going to oversee the initial site clearing and construction progress, which is super exciting. We've got a lot of strategic meeting plans. And the other thing is we did an upgrade with Canaan of our existing fleet. And so what you'll notice is we put a slide in our presentation that really just breaks out our hash rate growth and efficiency improvement quarter over quarter between now and summer of next year, right? So you've basically got, we're at 5.6 exahash today, 6 exahash Q1, 8 exahash Q2, 12.5 exahash Q3, and all the while the efficiency improves. And I think what's really exciting is, as you've noted, we've seen Bitcoin break up to 90,000. We are almost at a $60 hash price right now. And our gross mining margin looks to be upwards of $150 million a year by summer of this year, with Paraguay completed at a $55 hash price. And we're at $60 hash price. Now, this is a conservative estimate we put in our deck. And if we do see a bit of a rally, say $75 hash price, that's $250 million. That's a $250 million of annualized mining margin we could be seeing this summer with HIVE, with these upgrades and these expansions. So I'm super proud of the team. It's been an amazing year, and I think 2025 is going to be even better.
Looking at the company, and we've spoke to a number of CEOs about this, we've looked at the fact that people are, another form of asset within the company. And, as you're growing, the oldest public miner in the tech industry, can you sort of like highlight some of the key contributions from some of the people in your organization, be it at the board level or the senior management team, what they're delivering for HIVE at the moment?
I think a big part is from establishing from day one a culture, and a culture with some basic values and beliefs, and a structure that was to be as close as possible to the gold royalty business. And the gold royalty business means you need to have really strong, resilient executives at the top. They have the ability to manage 5 stakeholder groups, not just be silos of competence. And I think that culture of performance-driven, responsiveness and initiative, when we give out RSUs, they go right down to the person that's plugging in the machines. We're very, very democratic how it's been spread out, which is different than we see in other organizations, which makes it just top heavy. That has been really important for the culture. We're doing over $5 million of revenue per employee. If you look at NVIDIA, they're 3.5 million. You look at Apple, they're 2.5 million, and Goldman Sachs is a little over 1 million. So I'm pretty thrilled in a business that has this incredible accordion Bitcoin difficulty coming and going with Bitcoin price on your margin compression and how you function through that. And I think it's our unique culture and striving to be this royalty business model.
Excellent.
And one thing to add, Anthony, just to really embody the high performance culture that Frank has described, we've formalized that with training and leadership advancement training for the executive team. And I think we're starting to see the result of that. And this is remarkable. Here's a very compelling statistic. This was in our press release. Our G&A has come down 5% year over year if you look at the same quarter last year, but we grew our hash rate by 45% and we grew our GP revenue 8x. So that tells you a lot, right? We do a lot. It's a high octane, pound for pound, leanest, meanest punch in the crypto mining game, I would say.
Yeah, and we function in 9 time zones every day. We meet and huddle, knowing what machines are in or out and where they are being sent from Malaysia. Are they coming from Vietnam? Where are they coming from? Where are they going to be landing? Everybody in the organization knows that every morning, like a flight plan. They know exactly where things are and update. And I think that adds to what Aydin is doing a great job of fostering and supporting and pushing people to take, so like a classic would be what's called situational leadership by Blanchard. And it's a training program for CEOs for YPO. And Aydin is a member of YPO. Johanna in Europe, she's a member of YPO. And situational leadership is to try to recognize that when you're a leader, you have to shift gears and you have to be able to identify quickly at what stage is the team in, and then how you as a leader have to switch. So these are the things that Aydin just talked about. We make sure that people are always learning and taking courses like this.
Awesome. I mean, you mentioned there about the fact that the G&A costs had reduced year on year, which was excellent. Obviously, you've just released Q2 earnings for the company. Can you just talk very briefly about some of the highlights from those earnings, apart from just the G&A costs?
I think we saw 5.6 million of adjusted EBITDA for the quarter, which is very admirable. And it's well known that this is the first full post-halving quarter in this era. So $40 to $50 hash price, but we still came through with a positive operating margin this quarter of $1.1 million. In addition to that, we ended the quarter with 2,600 Bitcoin mined with green and clean energy on the balance sheet. And if you actually look at our October production report, so let's fast forward a month past, we increased that HODL to 2624. So with current Bitcoin prices at about 90,000, so almost $250 million of green and clean Bitcoin on the balance sheet, and our market cap is 600 million and change. So you look at that, it's a $400 million enterprise value. I think we're trading at an incredibly attractive value compared to our peers. And we're still producing almost 120 Bitcoin last month. So we also have a slide in our earnings webcast that, Bryce, it might be helpful for the viewers to share. And it shows how our peers are trading. What Anthony, you've done is the hype ratio. So we sort of took a similar pass at the same calculation, and we're still seeing premiums of anywhere from 30% to 600% of where peers are trading. And then people say, oh yeah, but will those guys also have an AI story? It's like, yeah, so do we. We're the first to have an AI story. We're the first to have that revenue on the P&L statement. So I think, we know it's the Canadian jurisdiction, and we're aware if we're US domiciled, Hut 8 has taken that path. You can get indexed in the Russell, and there's all these other capital markets considerations that help with the valuation. We're well aware. something we're considering, by the way. Anything else, Frank, that's helpful for the
No,
gang to
I
know?
think what's really interesting is Michael Saylor's presentation was all about driving for liquidity, and everything is with micro strategy. I thought was a brilliant presentation, updated. They gave a canter. And we see Palantir all of a sudden leave New York Stock Exchange to go to NASDAQ to get in the QQQ because it's $350 billion, and their stock has a huge surge because it's in the index. So they get a new reality by going into that index. And I think that's something that what Aydin is reflecting, is that we're looking at the process to what are all the issues we have to deal with in moving to the US, and moving the head office. But that you would still be able to move, keep the team in Vancouver and in Europe, etc. But the sort of regulatory filing stuff would, I guess, come through the head office in the US. So we've got lawyers working on all of that. And we do know it has had a huge impact on other companies. So we have to look at it.
Yeah, no, it's a serious point. I'm glad you raised that. In terms of, I read through the management report as well, and there was a couple of things there about energy costs, especially in Europe. I mean, I live in a country where they've probably got the highest energy of all Europe, and I know they operate in both Sweden and Iceland. I was fortunate to visit one of your sites in Sweden there, and you mentioned in your report that in 2023 the government added this increased sort of like taxation to the energy cost out there. Can you sort of like let the listeners understand about what's the plans for mining in European countries if it starts becoming less of a profitable service to do there?
I think philosophically, until the election results came in, all these other countries thought they could turn around and kick Bitcoin. And they had the right to come in. And we had this one reason when we started buying our own real estate is the landlord, when we first did our first acquisition, all of a sudden tries to raise the price of the rent because Bitcoin went up. They would try to take an advantage of you. Then you saw governments turn around and do the same thing. You must be making all this money, so we're going to try to tax it away. What Sweden did, which was a real major error in many respects, is because they basically doubled the cost of energy for all data centers. Same thing with Facebook. So Facebook's not going to expand there. It's the largest data center in Europe. It's the third largest in the world. And now they've fallen in their rankings for AI and attracting, I think, from like in the top 15 to about 45. And I think it will continue. We saw it in Paraguay. We went to Paraguay. I met with the president. It was a great meeting. Said we're going into Paraguay. And by the time, first of all, we went to buy the real estate before we make the announcement where we're buying, because otherwise people come and front run you on the real estate. And so we got our real estate title. We make the press release, but they raised their energy tax on only Bitcoin miners, not all data centers. Canada put a moratorium on all data centers unless you already have an existing data center. And so I think this election with Trump and his gang and saying we want Bitcoin mining to be in America, the value of the assets in America have gone up, but the rest better turn around and drop their energy price to remain competitive.
So do you see that happening, Frank? Then do you potentially see that coming down?
I think there's a wake-up call that's going on. And we heard about it. It was just so strange about how negative everyone was towards Paraguay. Even with the taxes, it's frustrating what they did and what it usurps of money going back to their country. And they need US dollars every month. They really need it. They need Bitcoin miners. And so I think they'll end up making changes there, but when, I don't know. But the difference between Paraguay and Bolivia and Colombia and Venezuela and Brazil is that Paraguayans love Americans.
Yeah.
America is so important that they exist as a country. If you read the history books of President Hayes that solved the dispute that was taking place where Brazil and Uruguay and Argentina were going to wipe them out and take away all the country in 1870. And one of the biggest states in the country is Hayes. So there's a real common thread. So I feel when I've been there, that it's much safer than going to Peru, where they'll tell you you can't talk on your phone, and an Uber, don't talk because someone will smash the car window to steal your phone. You have that in Caracas, you have that in Bogota. You don't have that in Asiante. You don't have that. So I feel this is a wonderful stepping stone. And the other part you see when you're driving throughout the country is Taiwan. Taiwan little flag is along all the agriculture. So they're big shippers of agricultural food products to Taiwan. Their relationship is not to mainland China like Venezuela and Colombia and other places. It's to Taiwan. So I feel really safe going there.
Hey, on the topic of Paraguay, we actually had that on our list of questions. So I'll jump around a little bit here, Anthony. Can we get a quick update now that you've broken ground just on the timelines, the financing, the number of machines? I know you guys talked about the aggressive growth plans there next year. Any details you're able to share about the construction and the progress so far?
Yeah, so what we put in our earnings webcast and what we covered in our press release was the 100 megawatts construction has broken ground. The PPA has been signed. We've ordered long lead time equipment. So there's actually a really nice aerial photo in our earnings webcast showing the site under construction. And so the first 30 megawatts comes online in calendar Q2 of next year, right? Which is 4 months away-ish. And that'll bring on 2 exahash. And then following that, by summer of next year, the balance of the 100 megawatts, the full 6.5 exahash will come online. And so, as I mentioned at the top of this interview, we'll be entering the spring, right, with 6 exahash of our base fleet existing, and the additional 6.5 from Paraguay will put us at 12.5. So that's all detailed, and there's a nice visual that you could perhaps use, and I'll send that over for you.
And in terms of funding that site, you've got availability of an ATM, you've got a massive balance sheet of Bitcoin as well.
We got a $200 million ATM, Anthony, and it's been very effective, low cost of capital. And we originally filed a $300 million base shelf. So past the ATM, there's some capacity to raise capital.
Someone knocking on our door every day. I get an inbound call to give us money to do a bot deal. And we're not going to be like like DMG did a deal which shocked us of how much they gave away. We have a very well-known liquid name. So we're okay. We're in good form.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you got to appreciate the miners that can, and there's a lot of miners that can't, and unfortunately, DMG and that. I mean, Argo blockchain exactly the same. When they go to the market done dilute, it's a massive premium, and so the shareholders lose out. I mean, I saw the DMG update. I've seen other miners in a similar position, but they're usually the smaller miners. I mean, we look at the advancement of, say, Clean Spark and Iron using their ATMs. Have been, it's been astonishing over this last couple of years, and it's shown that it is a good lever to pull when it's necessary. Obviously, from a shareholder perspective, you've got to sort of like consider shareholders' value as well, and to make sure that they're not going to lose out, because if you're eroding their value, they're the first ones to sort of like highlight what their thoughts are on the process. But if it's like for growing hash rate and you can get there, but I suppose the question is when do companies stop? When's the time to stop using ATM? In fact, the question should be, when's the time to stop growing?
That's a great question. I think we still have early innings, and when we think of the Bitcoin ecosystem, and if you listen to Michael Saylor, there is no stopping. You buy the dip and you stack the coins and you hold on for dear life. I think it's really interesting to see this adoption process take place. Everyone was in El Salvador last week while Cantor was having their conference, and some left there. There were some of the fund managers that were at the Cantor, went on a panel, and they went to El Salvador. I think that it's, can you find good deals? And I think the real critical part is can you get the return on invested capital? If you look at Michael Saylor's presentation, He really articulates well his mechanism for driving a high cash flow return on invested capital. And that's what I and myself is so focused on every time we buy a machine, like the deal we did with Canaan. It's a fantastic deal. It's not a whole bunch of money up front. It's a mechanism that's like when we buy NVIDIA chips. And it's a very attractive price that helps our return on invested capital. We don't give them half of our money and then hope the machines show up in time and throw off our whole return on invested capital model. It's a beautiful structured deal.
Hey, that's a great segue. Actually, I was just going to ask about what type of machines are going in the Paraguay facility. I know you just had that announcement with the, I think, 6,500 machines from Canaan as well. We had Ben on the program from Bitfarms not too long ago. He said they're having some real learnings with the machines in Paraguay. So I was just curious at this point if you have any detail on the fleet outfit there.
Well, there was some disclosure that Bitfarms had with respect to their air-cooled T21s, and that's where the issues were. So Paraguay is a humid climate, and I believe they are using evaporative chillers in that environment, so it adds more humidity. So that's humidity on humidity using an air-cooled miner. So we haven't come out, as Frank alluded to, we haven't commented specifically on which hardware we are purchasing for Paraguay. The Canaans were immediate delivery, near term, and they were for our existing fleet upgrade to get the remaining 30 joule per terahash machines in our current footprint in Sweden and Canada get upgraded, right? So bringing on more hash rate, but also improving our break even. And to Frank's point, those machines, we ran all the math as we do all the time, had the best ROI, 30% faster ROI than anything else on the market at the time. Now, that's not to say, like, we're agnostic, we're data driven, it's all analytical. So if Bitmain has the best offer, we'll buy Bitmain machines. If a reseller has a micro BT machine that has the best ROI and immediate delivery, we'll buy those. So it's really just all data driven and what's the best ROI for our shareholders. And in fact, you'll notice another really compelling slide that you might want to share as it was featured in our webcast, but you might want to have it here as well, is our ROIC slide, our cash return on invested capital slide. We led the entire sector again with an annualized 15% ROIC, 3.7% for the quarter. And a lot of our peers were treading around, a few basis points, some even negative, and you could see that here. What's more compelling is quarter over quarter, we have led the sector for the last year on ROIC, which I think is very commendable and a very impressive statistic.
And we think long-term money managers will go to those companies that show that discipline in getting that return on invested capital. But right now, as we've seen, Anthony, for the past year, is just sell as many shares, get as many machines, and get energy and get that big market cap valuation. But I don't believe that. I believe that only works in the U.S. and if your home base is U.S. That's not happening if you're UK based, you're Canadian based.
And actually, that brings us on it nicely even way into the sort of like high performance computing part of your business. We've seen a lot of miners, and Hut's one of those miners who've had real benefit from their announcements recently in terms of what they're doing in HPC. We know you were one of the first companies out there to highlight some sort of HPC strategy. A number of miners have tried to sort of like also bring in HPC. Some have been successful, some maybe not as successful.
Sorry, I just want to I apologize for interjecting, but there's a very important distinction. We're not one of the first to have a strategy or a narrative. We're the first, and I'm happy to be proven wrong. We're the first to have AI revenue actually on our income statement. We started booking revenue from HPC in Q2 of 2023, calendar Q2. You could look it up. It's really easy to look up because if you just go to our MD&A, it breaks it out quarter over quarter. So the key distinction, because there's a lot of hand waving right now, and grand gesturing about how great HPC is, but who's executing? And then when you execute, get the revenue, because it's one thing to build, it's another thing to meet the uptime, and it's yet another thing to have cash flow. So I think that's a key distinction that people should start looking more closely at, because we just say, hey, we'll just turn everything to HPC and we should be a $3 billion company. Or like,
you highlight in your report, you've got a run rate at the moment, currently about 9 million annualized revenues in HPC. And you've articulated that you're going to use the Brunswick site, which is another 20 megawatts potential for growth. Can you tell us a little bit more about where you see, the future of HPC within HIVE Digital?
Yeah, so the revenue that we currently have is cash flow from our A series cards, right? Which we've scaled from last year. We started with 450 GPUs and scaled that to approximately 4,500 GPUs. And by the way, since September 30th, for the month of October, we've got back to 10 million of annualized revenue. So I mentioned that on the webcast, so I'll echo that sentiment here. But we've also projected a $20 million of annualized revenue for Q1 of calendar 2025. Now, that is based on next generation NVIDIA compute. Now, I'm just couching that statement with the revenue projection. We haven't press released specifically what clusters or what hardware constitutes that. But what we can say is strategically, based on the size and market revenues that these types of GPUs are generating, will eclipse the $20 million. So the 10 going to $20 million of annualized revenue is based on GPUs being rented. Now, as Frank highlighted, and as you had a chance to visit, Anthony, our facilities in New Brunswick, which are data center grade, and there's actually two facilities you saw in Bowdoin. One actually already has data center racks. You could see the level of construction that was built. That, as Frank mentioned, we've already had two general contracting firms go out, give budgets and timelines for the construction. And so it's a function of contract administration, as Frank said. That's something that we would endeavor to kick off before the holidays. And similarly, in New Brunswick, close to the border of Maine, as Frank mentioned, we also had two different Canadian data center general contractors, both with a long list of accomplishments, go provide competitive budgets and timelines. And so, as Frank mentioned, doing a 20 megawatt conversion, New Brunswick is a 4-building campus. So just taking that 4th building and doing the conversion there would be about a $200 million spend if we want to turn the whole thing into tier 3. So that's very exciting. And the kind of macro high level number, if you had 20 megawatts of compute and you want to fill that all with GPUs, like all with Blackwell, for example, that 20 megawatts of compute is going to yield you $350 million of revenue at estimated market prices of where we expect Blackwell to trade. So if you want to trade at 100 million of revenue, it's a third of that. It's 6 or 7 megawatts of compute, right? Which would constitute that smaller building in Bowdoin that you saw. But again, when you are building this much tier 3 infrastructure, you also have the optionality to do colo. And so we could have own GPU clusters and have the ability to do colo and rent rack space to others. So there's a lot of optionality. And when we first put out that $100 million projection, we realized that with our existing fleet of A-series cards, if we rented them all out, we could get to that level. But as we were growing the fleet and we went down to the NVIDIA GTC in March, and again, Frank and I went to headquarters in September and met with the NVIDIA executive team, we really wanted to double down on next generation NVIDIA compute. And so we pivoted the strategy. We still have the same targets. We still have 20 million and 100 million, but how we get there has evolved because we want to be on the cutting edge. And by the way, as we've mentioned before, but it is very important to note, if you do want to be running any Blackwell compute, it's going to be liquid cooled. And so you've got to be building the data centers to a specification that NVIDIA has provided, both on their reference architecture at the hardware level, and even be mindful they have reference architecture for software. So you've got to build it right. And our team has invested heavily in this process. That's why our team is down here at Supercompute in Atlanta this week. So stay tuned. It's going to be a really exciting couple months ahead on our AI strategy.
Now, that's another great segue. You talk about exciting things on the horizon here with Bitcoin price rallying. You've obviously got growth on the Bitcoin front as well. You talked about your HODL increasing in value, the HPC AI opportunities. The question is, and this was from a subscriber, what is Hive most excited about moving into 2025?
I can only pick one thing.
According to the subscriber, you can. You can each pick one, we'll say.
I think honestly, I'm really excited about Paraguay. You know, once upon a time in the last bull market, uh, and this was a remarkable acquisition that Hive made under Frank's stewardship of Sylvie and Lachute, and that was 30 megawatts. And then when I joined Hive, we brought on the team from GP1, and that was our New Brunswick site, which at the time was only partially complete. And it was a 10 megawatt building, and we built that to 30 and then 70 megawatts. That site has 2 substations. It's a military grade crypto mine. So, we're running 100 megawatts in Canada. And so we've been very intentional and scouring the globe, really, looking all sorts of sites over the last couple of years. And Paraguay, it ticks the boxes. You've got green energy, it's hydro, and the cost to build on $1 per megawatt is very attractive. At a macro level, Frank has highlighted Paraguay is very U.S. friendly. I think that as a result, where things are going in the U.S. election, just Hive bringing on a lot of Bitcoin hash rate. And earlier, you asked where do you stop? What's our target? Our target for the end of next year is 2%, 2% of the global Bitcoin mining hash rate. It doesn't matter. I know 12.5 exahash might not be 2%. That's just where we're going to be by the summer. So stay tuned for more. The chapter doesn't end next summer. That's a bookmark. That's a milestone that we've given the street specificity on. But our target is to do 9 Bitcoin a day. We believe that's a meaningful, healthy size for an institutional grade Bitcoin miner. If institutions want to invest in a company with low overhead, best in class ROIC, and by the way, best uptime, as you often cover, Anthony, in power analysis, Hive is that, and it's green energy. Hive is that Bitcoin miner.
Yeah, there's no doubt in the operational performance of the company in the top 2 for the last 4 years, along with Bitfarms and the Canadian miners. So you two are sort of that closest year. It's going to be interesting on your next, I think, November update to see who finishes top by the end of the year. But there's a thin line between both at the moment. Actually, I think the other man is actually starting to catch up a little bit as well. So maybe they're seeing your standard and trying to raise their standards as well. So yeah, good that you brought up the operational performance. Always sort of get close to the top of my tables in most of the metrics I provide.
And I'm taking my orange pill.
Oh, nice. We've got him. He's a Bitcoiner now. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Phenomenal interview, you guys. I know we covered a lot, so if we have any questions we didn't get to in the comment section below, leave them. We'll pass them along to the team. Hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe. If you guys have any closing comments, I'll throw it back to the team, but we appreciate you making the time today, Aydin and Frank.
Thank you.
I hope the satellite link from the moon where Bitcoin is has been good. So
Starlink.
Starlink's holding up good for you, buddy. Yeah, we'll see you soon.
thanks.